Good afternoon and welcome. The 30th day of May. The year is 2020. Actually, the last days of the month of May. So much happening around COVID-19 and sports, but still already there is light at the end of the tunnel in terms of most sporting activities, giving indicative dates of when their sports disciplines will be resuming. Already we have the German Bundesliga up and running, and midweek, one key match that many thought would be the decider for the German Bundesliga, that is FC Bayern Munich taking on Borussia Dortmund. Bayern Munich beating Borussia by 1-0, cementing their position at the top. The other leagues given indicative dates, the La Liga, the much loved here in Kenya, the English Premier League, also giving indicative dates, not just indicative dates, but the preliminary rounds of matches in terms of who is likely to face who. The biggest is Arsenal away to Manchester City on the 17th of June. Good afternoon once again and welcome. My name is Amfa PD, and as usual, ready to take you through the sporting actions or the sporting highlights of what's been happening and what's coming up this coming week. Of course, very good news in terms of the resumption of most sports activities. But for now, we are getting ready to just take you through some of the key highlights of what's lined up this afternoon. Of course, we have guests who will be joining us via technology to take us through what's making them tick or what they've been up to during these COVID times. I must confirm to you that they are guests that you will be interested to find out what's been making them tick or what they're doing behind the scenes to remain afloat during these COVID times. Welcome, and let's take it away. We start off the show this afternoon joined by one athlete who's done 5 major marathons in the world. When we talk about 5 major marathons, we are talking about London Marathon. He's been out there, done London, done New York, done Boston, Chicago, and Berlin in that order. You can imagine, just for recreational purposes, we are joined online by Mr. David Thuo, recreational athlete who's done 5 major marathons. We'll find out what has he been, what has he been up to during these COVID times, and how have they affected his plans in terms of getting probably 6 majors or going beyond. Not many Kenyans have done this. 3 majors, 3 athletes only have done 5 major marathons in the country. David is one of them. Good afternoon, David, and welcome to the show this afternoon.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, viewers. Glad to be with you.
Thank you very much, David. It's good to have you around. First and foremost, congratulations. Doing 5 majors is no mean achievement.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I think you are taking behind the foot a number of fellow colleagues who have actually made it to 6. So I am actually aspiring to get to that number 6.
Well, let me ask, first ask what motivated you into going into major marathons in the world? No easy task, but there must have been a motivation behind this.
Yes, what happens is that I started off running some 20 years ago. Actually, by default, when my son was born, when we were very young. So I started running then, and I used to run to escort my wife in the early mornings. Running was the only thing we could afford to do then. But many years later, I have embraced running. I enjoy running. I learn a lot from running. I actually say that running teaches us life lessons that are very crucial. Lessons like perseverance, hard work, teamwork, picking yourself up when you lose so that you can do better in the next race. So that's how it started. And after doing a number of races in the country, Stanchat, Lewa, Sotokoto, and Dakaini, then I came, through interaction, I realized that there were other bigger races across the world, and there was a team of people who are actually taking part in them. So I joined in the bandwagon and started off with the biggest races in the world, which is the five that you have mentioned plus Tokyo. And that is what I've been doing since 2016, together with other races in Kenya and outside Kenya, and regionally like Kilimanjaro Marathon.
Very interesting on how you started off indeed, but you never looked back in terms of being motivated. Very good story there indeed. But let me ask, for the sake of our viewers, you do this for charity.
I actually do this for, I started off for fitness. I like to say that the biggest wealth that we have is our health. So I started off with fitness, but as you carry on, you have to realize that you actually, through running, you can actually impact the lives of others. And that's how we plugged in the issue of charity. And we say that there is no greater feeling than knowing that when you cross the finish line, that feeling, that medal that you get counts for way more than personal gratification, but it also goes a long way in blessing someone else who is less unfortunate than we are around us.
Well, David, interesting stuff there. Let me talk about preparations, because as we speak, we are seeing a clip of you preparing and running through the terrains. How do you prepare for such marathons? I know you don't run to compete, but you run for fitness and other initiatives. How do you prepare for such major races?
Yes, okay. The preparation takes a number of aspects. One, there is actually so you will get out there, you will have a plan. So what we do, we look at the race. Say, for example, the race is, say, 4 months away. We pick that as the goal and we work backwards, which is another great lesson in running, that they say you can't eat an elephant at a go. You then break it down into that big elephant goal into smaller goals, which becomes monthly goals, weekly goals, and eventually trickle down to daily goals. So I plan my time between, looking forward to the race. So I will, by say a build up, maybe I've come from a race and I've taken a break. So I build up to bring my mileage to a peak mileage, which is like, for example, in this particular preparation that we are doing for the race on Monday, has been 160 kilometers. So I started up by building up my mileage in March, picked up at 160 there until 3 weeks ago, where I reduced that mileage. And currently, like this week, I'm doing very little to actually let my legs recover for the big push on the day. So there's that physical aspect. There's the mental aspect. Obviously, you need to be very mentally prepared. The run, the time you get so tired that, you would imagine you can't go an extra kilometer or an extra meter, but the mind helps you to keep pushing. There is also the technical bit. So you are eating right, you are drinking right, you are hydrating. And obviously, there's also a support aspects element around running, like we saw with Kipchoge, with the pacers. We have our family members, like my wife, my kids are very instrumental in supporting my feeding and emotional support. We have friends around us, our extended families. Very key, our training partners. We encourage each other. We talk to each other, and eventually the fans and people like physiotherapists around us. So it's a very wide circle of requirements to get to the race day in a good condition, and those are partly some of the areas that we look at in preparation. So it's not just going out there and running.
Very good, preparation steps are there, mental, dietary, and even physical fitness, having all your physios ready to run and, make you in good shape. Of all the marathons that you've run in the five majors, that's Boston, Chicago, Berlin, New York, and New York as well, Berlin is tipped to be the one that all world records go. What makes it that easy compared to the other marathons that you've run? David, are you with me? David, I'm asking, of all the marathons that you...
Sorry, I lost you a bit. Just say that again. Sorry, I lost you a little.
Sorry, I'm saying, of all the majors that you've run London, New York, Chicago, Boston, Berlin. Berlin is always tipped to be the world record course. Do you agree? And what makes it a world record course compared to the other, races that you've run?
Okay, Berlin is actually, like you have mentioned, rightfully mentioned, where the world record, especially for men, has been broken time and time again. It is generally quite a flat course. It is at a very low altitude compared to the others. So generally, for just to make it simple for the viewers, the course is quite flat. It is at a low altitude. Here in Kenya, we are at, like for example, where I've been training ranges between 1,800 meters and 2,000 meters. Most of those runs have been in Ngong and Nairobi area. People like Kipchoge in Kaptagat.
Well, when we talk about, some of the world majors and the races there, you can see that that must be Berlin. Eliud Kipchoge broke the world record there, and in so doing, it's been so interesting seeing what's been happening. David, we are just looking at clips of Eliud Kipchoge running some of the races. Most likely, this must be Berlin, and just looking at some of the courses, as you are mentioning, is it a flat course?
Sorry, again, which particular one? Berlin?
The Berlin, is it a flat course? No wind?
Yes, Berlin.
Go ahead.
Yes, but test of those courses, so it is quite flat. Yeah.
Okay, David, how do you get... Yes, go ahead. One question, David, that Kenyans would be asking...
Sorry, say that again.
One question that Kenyans...
with the network.
Yes, one question that Kenyans would be asking is, how do you get to register in these majors? Because you realize that at times they're only looking for, 10 to say 40K athletes, and over 100,000 athletes apply to run in the races. How do you get, to register in these races? Is it through lottery?
Okay, there's a number of available avenues to get into these majors. One of them is obviously for the elite. The elite obviously get invited by sponsors, etc. And what we say, generally the elites form only around 1% of the participants in a race. So for example, in a race like say London with say almost 40,000 guys, only 1% is elite, less than 1% is elite runners. So the others are recreational runners. Highlight, how big recreation is world. Recreational runner a number of is one tari. So you put it in and to the race, and they will lot a ballot, and then select people randomly. Is that some of can be as high as 300,000 and 500,000 for about 40 or 30,000 slots for miss out, and you can also see the opportunity available in terms of recreational runners around. So the lottery then is done. The balloting is done sometime maybe 3 or 4 months the race, and those who get selected randomly get notified. The other avenue that is available is through charity. So what happens? This race slots to charitable organizations to help them raise funds, and the charitable organizations then give out those slots to people who how they raise money for their charities. And then we've got sports tour teams who also get a limited number of slots to apply for those slots through the sports tour company. And then they also make some bits. They obviously get to book for you hotels, some of them will book for you your travel, and that's how they make their money. So there is the lottery, which is ballot, there is the charity organizations, and there is sports tours. Lately, like during this of our running time, were actually invited directly by given an opportunity by the organizers of London Marathon to actually join in if we were interested in actually doing the races. So that is another avenue that has come up, and that is based purely on.
Very tough there indeed, very, very tough, and interesting to see that, at times through lottery, you can be able to, to get to register, and through charitable organizations. David, has COVID-19 affected your plans in any way? If yes, how has it affected?
Yes, certainly. In fact, had the COVID-19 not come our way, I believe I would now have completed Tokyo. I was supposed to have run Tokyo on the 1st of March 2020, and then COVID came into the picture, and Tokyo the first major marathon to be cancelled. So then and it was cancelled about 3 or so weeks to the race. Then a number of us who are supposed to do Tokyo and others registered for Vienna Marathon, because once you train, you want to take that energy somewhere. You put in so much effort and you need a run. So we registered for Vienna. Vienna got cancelled, and long story short, we have seen all the races that were there in the first half of the year cancelled. A number of them that were
We seem to be having a bit of connectivity troubles there with David, but we shall get back to David in a bit. And like he says, they had prepared for the Tokyo Marathon that was unfortunately called off as a result of COVID-19. Then they looked at Vienna to be the possible event or the possible run that they would have taken part in. That as well got cancelled as a result of COVID-19. Very tough decisions they have to make, and like he says, all that energy needs to be taken elsewhere. David, so what's the plan now that the energy has not been spent? I know you have plans. There is the Ngong Run coming up. What's the plan?
Yes, so what we did, because we also needed to keep training, because it's very difficult for you to wake up and do a 40 kilometers, wake up and do speed training. So we decided that we need to find a way to keep training while taking care of ourselves, obviously staying safe. So consequently, Ngong, which is a very vast area, became a preferred area of training. And, a number of us decided that we would want to actually have a run, sort of a race in the first half of the year. So we set out for 1st May, and then eventually moved it to 1st of June. And we thought where we train is very tough in Ngong, a place called Kahara, where many elites train, the likes of Obiri train in Ngong. So we started we always train there, but we increased our number of times of training there because of social distancing. So eventually we set out, to run on the 1st of June, which is in 2 days' time. And then, as I said, there is no greater feeling than running and impacting the lives of those around you. We realized that there were so many people who were ready to work but would not have an income. Didn't have an income because of COVID-19. Most of them people who do manual work, people who clean, taxi drivers who drive taxis, people who go to shambas, people who work in hotels. They were always appealing, we were always getting requests to assist in rent, etc. So a number of us actually sat down and said, look, we always run for charity in races. Why don't we set out, this run to support charity? And that's how Adopt a Family charity was initiated. So basically, the charity has a team of people. We've got the likes of Joyce Nduko, we've got Lois, we've got Lucy, we've got Douglas, and we set up a team. We ask people to send us cases of people around them who are not able to meet their basic needs, and mostly we were looking at food and shelter. And I know there was a big demand for masks, but we realized that if you took a mask to someone who slept hungry, that amount of money that you would spend buying that mask, in as much as they require the mask, and we do give them masks, we did not want to spend all the money on the masks. So the cases were sent to us. We vetted the very key ones, and because initially when you start, then obviously you've got little money coming in. We selected 6 families, and we have been able to be very supportive. We have had very touching experiences with them. A family in Kiserian, where the dad used to sell eggs in the evening, and they've got 5 kids, and they all sleep in one room, and they were being kicked out of that room. Because of COVID-19, the dad was no longer able to sell the eggs, which he used to do past 7, so he lost his source of income. So we did take them, some bit of food, and while complying with the requirements of, social distancing and protection. The other case was a case of a lady in Limuru, a single mother who was abandoned by the husband, 6 years ago, and now when she was pregnant, and she's got 3 kids. The 6-year-old handsome-looking man, the baby who was then, she was pregnant with, is now 6 years, a very handsome-looking man. And this lady was a waiter in Ngara. The hotel closed. She was unable to actually fend for herself, and had started, doing manual work, washing clothes for people around her. And even those jobs were not very forthcoming. She was about to be kicked out of her house. So that case was brought to our attention. We managed to talk to the landlord, who was very accommodating and reduced her rent, by a certain percent. And we agreed to pay for the month that she had not paid for. A case in Kitengela, where a lady was being kicked out of her house because of rent of 1,200 shillings. They live in a Mabati house. They sleep on the floor with her 2 kids. Another case of a government-sponsored university student, again in Kitengela, who got pregnant and has got over the period, and she's a 4th year. She's got 2 kids. She dropped out of school. Again, she does manual work, and she's not able then to fend for the family over this period when people are cautious about letting people in. So the stories have been very touching, and we are very grateful to all the people who have supported us in this initiative. We have managed to give them food, pay their arrears, and with the money that we have collected, and we started this initiative on 1st of May, and it's running up to 1st of June, actually tomorrow, but the culmination is around that we'll be doing in Gong. So with the extra money that we have gotten, we have managed to actually pay for their rent in advance for June and July, and we believe that they should be comfortable, and hopefully things will have changed by then. So we are also looking into other cases, and we are hoping that this initiative will be able to at least impact on the total of 20 families, if not more. So we are still appealing, and we are grateful for those who have given. So the run on 1st June, like we had indicated earlier, is still raising funds towards the same. So people are pledging money, a certain amount per kilometer. Even 100 bob will do. 100 bob will buy a packet of unga, etc. So people are pledging money towards the kilometers that we are doing. We hope to run a sub-3. So we are also challenging ourselves. We are not just saying, we can run a 42 kilometers, but we are saying we are going to run the 42 kilometers in a very tough terrain and try and push ourselves. And obviously it's working hard so that we say that we didn't choose an easy thing to do. We chose a tough course so that even they say the harder the work, the greater the glory. So we are really looking forward to obviously the run and the support that is coming because of that run, which will be a blessing to many people who are struggling.
Thank you very much, David. So the time to beat is sub 3 hours at Ngong, 42 kilometers.
Correct. And for the runners who are listening, they know that sub 3 is a goal that not everyone is chasing, but those who are near sub 3, they know it's quite a task. Even on a flat course at low altitude, it takes a lot of work. I worked so hard to get to sub 3. London, I missed it by 1 or 2 seconds. New York, I missed it again by, I didn't miss. I just barely made it with 3 seconds. I think I had 2:59.57. New York was almost 3. Eventually now my fastest time is Berlin last year, 2 hours 38, which is, almost elite, semi-elite. But
that's elite. The world record is 2:01. So you missed it by about half an hour or so, which is a long time in marathon.
Correct. But for those who run, or if we run with you, you'll appreciate that half an hour can also be 3 hours. Maybe I'll take you on a run then for us to put the half hour into perspective. But anyway, so Kahara is at 2,000 feet, unlike Berlin, which is near sea level. And then the terrain is undulating, meaning that it goes up and down, and is very, very, very difficult, a difficult terrain. So sub 3 hours will take quite some effort.
Yes, David. Lupita Nyong'o says your dreams are valid, so we wish you all the best, and we know it can be achieved based on what you've done across in the 5 majors. As we wind up, the final question for you. You've done 5 majors, and when we look at the current Kenyan standings, looking at majors, only 8 Kenyan athletes have done 6 majors, the likes of Edna Kiplagat, Emmanuel Mutai. Are you looking at graduating to 6 majors and eventually probably to 8?
Yes, by the way, just for your information, there is more recreational runners on that list than elites.
Yes, looking at it, I saw the same.
Yes, so we've got the likes of Jack Ndegwa, who I trained with, Avani, again, who I trained with. We've got Waliaula, who was the first Kenyan
to do 6.
To get to 6-star. We've got Absaid Avani, who and Felicita, who have also gotten to the 6th star status, and others. So yes, I am looking forward to getting to 6-star status, and then looking on to something else. There's always something else beyond once you achieve. There's always some other bigger thing beckoning. So, but I'm looking forward to this particular one.
Very good mindset there, David, in terms of saying once you've achieved that, you always look at the next challenge. Your final comment or probably message to Kenyans as they watch you right now during these hard times of COVID-19?
I think one key issue that we are seeing with COVID-19 is that, obviously, a good health is of very great importance, and I think we can't, overemphasize the fact that COVID-19 has been really affecting those people who have, obviously some health issues with them. Some there's nothing you can do about, maybe his age, etc. But we do know that those who have had health issues, have been quite affected by the pandemic. And so it is very important for us to take care of our health. And fortunately or unfortunately for some, for your good health, especially the one fitness-wise, it takes your personal effort. And so we all have to do something. It's fitness and good health, or good health coming from fitness is not something that you can buy. Money will not buy it for you. So you need to go out there and find something that can work for you to improve your health. We do know that of late we have a lot of diseases caused by our sedentary lifestyle. We drive to work, we take lifts, we hardly do much. And as a result, we are getting a lot of cases of obesity and diseases that are related to lack of fitness. So I would urge all of us, as a big lesson from this pandemic and generally, that we need to embrace our good health. And each one of us must do something to ensure that we get into a state where we are actually maintaining our health, as opposed to a case where we are paying for big insurances, or we have the money to go to any hospital that we want to go to. We should actually be looking at preventing disease, as opposed to putting measures in place for when the diseases strike. So let us prevent the diseases. We have the old saying that we learned from a very young age that prevention is better than cure, and a reminder that our health is our greatest wealth.
Our health is our greatest wealth. I mean, a very good way to end that part of the same. David, we really appreciate you making time to be with us. I know you had a very busy schedule during the morning session, going through physio and stuff, but you still made time. We appreciate, and we are wishing you all the best come Monday in the sub 3-hour Ngong run. I believe the splits are done. You know what to do in what kilometer, and we wish you all the best with the rest of the team, and a very good initiative in terms of adopt a family.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That has, yes.
And for the sake of the viewers, for you to get to under 3 hours in that race, you must average.
You must average how many per kilometer?
Yeah, throughout the average. So whether you are
average what per kilometer? 4 minutes.
4 minutes 15 seconds.
Wow.
For you to be under 3 hours at 42.2 kilometers, which is the full marathon distance.
4 minutes 15 seconds is the time to beat per kilometer. I mean, going 42 kilometers is no mean achievement at that pace. Some of us go through treadmill and you do a kilometer in about 10 minutes and you really think you've achieved. But anyway, your dreams are valid, David. Wish you all the best, and we appreciate you making time to be with us this afternoon.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. That has been David Thuo, a recreational athlete who's done 5 marathon majors in the world. The 5 marathons: London, New York, Boston, Chicago, Berlin, and really keeping fit and trying to urge other Kenyans that it is achievable. They have a run on Monday in Ngong where they're trying to do a sub 3 hour. Doing that in Ngong is no mean achievement, looking at the conditions out there, the terrains and stuff. But we wish them all the best, and we'll be following keenly, and we'll let you know probably in next week's show how the sub 3 hour went in terms of their run, and also having a very good initiative which is called Adopt a Family initiative, trying to help during this COVID-19 times. We really appreciate, and we are glad that you're watching. Up next is The Score, just to bring us up to speed with some of the events that made headlines from the sporting world in the past week. Enjoy. When we come back, we move into another interview segment. Don't go away. This is Game On, your weekly program on KBC Channel 1. The Score is up next.
Sure they're going to get the clean sweep here. It's a good run from Jakeman, who now moves up into 3rd place. What a run from Jake Whiteman. It's Manangoi who leads, the world champion, with Chariot on his shoulder. And Chariot's challenging. Manangoi trying to hang on, but the world champion has got the class to become the Commonwealth champion.
Elijah Manangoi, Timothy Cheriot and Edwin Melly, renowned for the exploits over the 1500 meters races, will take on brothers Jacob, Philip and Henry Ingebrigtsen in a race dubbed Maury Memorial Impossible Games race run on June 11th. The virtual 2000 meters race will be a duel between two cities. Kenyan Sports Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Mina Mohamed says the duel is a welcome boost to the local sports industry that's reeling from effects of the global health crisis.
They have started training and are really training hard for that event, and I just want to wish them all the best. Yeah, I wish you all the best. Timothy, you beat this team in Doha, so I'm hoping that this will be a repeat of what you did in Doha.
Commonwealth champion Elijah Manangoi, reigning 1500 meters world champion Timothy Cheriot, and 800 meters runner Edwin Melly will race from the refurbished Nyayo National Stadium, while Norwegian brothers Jacob, Philip and Henry Ingebrigtsen, who are no strangers in track and field races, will compete from Oslo.
There is that we are just competing like the other races, so we are putting God first, and then going to
tunatayarisha mzuri na tunatarajia tuwin hiyo race tarehe 11.
It's waiting for the Kenyans to dictate the pace. If you want different results, you've got to do things differently. I like.
World marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge joined Lewa Wildlife Conservancy Rangers on a practice run for the virtual Lewa Marathon Challenge, a global run in support of conservation and ranges that's set to be held on the 27th of June.
It means a lot actually to run with Edward and the old rangers. To run with that person that when you're actually asleep at night, he's awake actually looking and then taking care of the precious animals, especially the big five, and especially the rhino and the elephants. They're really awake for 24 hours when we are sleeping, and it's really a high time, and it's an honor for me to run with them.
As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, this year's Lewa Marathon had been cancelled, and its place, a virtual challenge, shall be held on the 27th of June, with organizers encouraging their supporters to run anywhere they are in the world. The Lewa ambassador was accompanied by World Half Marathon record holder Geoffrey Kamworor, as well as two other elite athletes, Philemon Rono and Jonathan Korir.
It was really important for me to come with people like Eliud and to come run with rangers to show that support to them, that we are together at these strange times, that together we can manage. So it was a way of motivating them and showing them that we are together at these strange times.
The event, which in previous years has raised an annual 50 million shillings for a range of conservation, community development and education projects that benefits thousands of Kenyans across the country. Athletics Kenya has acknowledged that the COVID-19 pandemic could pose a challenge to attendance even as the country remains on course of staging the opening leg of the inaugural World Athletics Continental Tour set for September in Nairobi.
So want to organize to have an opportunity for our athletes here in Kenya, because so far, as the president has said, they have never had an opportunity to compete. Although they are training individually as per the rules given by the Ministry of Health, they need to have an opportunity to race so that they can catch their performances. And at least Kenya is working on that program, as you said, to ensure that maybe somewhere in August or early September, we have some events, maybe national championship, to ensure that we select the team that will be competing on the 26th.
The meet, which is expected to attract runners from Tanzania, Ethiopia, as well as Uganda, with the overall tour winners receiving wildcard entry to the World Athletics Championships in Oregon.
Three categories of events that will take place. We have the Go events. Those Go events, you remember very well, are the events that were removed from Golden League. And the World Athletics ensure that those events will be held during the competition with the Continental Tour. So those are the Go events. We have also the discretionary events. The discretionary events are the events that will be chosen by the Federation.
One-day championships expected to be hosted at Nyayo National Stadium, which is near completion after years under renovation.
We are almost in some areas 99%. There are some portions that are remaining. We are at 90%, 95%. And we are looking forward to completing within the next 2 weeks. Actually, by end of this week, we'll only be having the main contractor putting the final touches within the main stadium. So that's where we are focusing on to ensure that we get this facility handed over within the next 2 weeks.
The National Olympic Committee of Kenya Medical Commission has recommended a first return to training approach as the world continues to grapple with the effects of the coronavirus pandemic, which has affected sports activities globally. Recommendations on return to competition will be issued at a later date and after subsequent meetings with the internal and external stakeholders. The first return to training protocol lays emphasis on the need for infection prevention control measures at athletes level and at facility and team levels. It also calls for the identification of personnel to undergo basic training to ensure adherence to rules at the training facilities like restricted numbers of athletes and minimal or non-contact training. NOC will also identify persons who will coordinate surveillance activities for athletes and officials in order to ensure that the measures are in place at training venues. Former Kenya Rugby Sevens player Alan Makaka passed on after being involved in a road accident along Mombasa Road. Makaka scored most tries for Kenya in the 2004-2005 World Rugby Sevens Series, while having the most points at 86 the same year. Born in 1982, Makaka started playing rugby at Ulinzi and was part of the team that won the 2002-2003 National Sevens Circuit before joining Kenya Harlequins, where he went on to win the Kenya Cup in 2008. Makaka made 57 appearances for Kenya Sevens on the Sevens World Series with 28 tries and 142 points. It was also part of the Shujaa team to the 2005 Rugby World Cup Sevens in Hong Kong and the 2006 Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, Australia. FKF wants KPL and Chemel Sugar suit to be dismissed on the grounds that the dispute ought to have been dealt with internally instead of them seeking legal redress. FKF said the agreement prohibits parties from referring any dispute under the deal to a court of law or any other jurisdiction not recognized by the international body FIFA. Following the cancellation of the league, Gor Mahia were declared champions and who were leading the table on 7 points ahead of second-placed Kakamega Homeboys, who were second on 47 points. Tusk FC were placed fourth, while Sony Sugar, who had not honored a fixture in the season, were ousted out of the league, while Chemel Sugar was supposed also to be relegated, while Kisumu Ulcers, who were ranked 16th at the close of the season, were supposed to take on Vihiga United in a promotion relegation playoff. Meanwhile, the government has announced a 20 million shilling stimulus package for Kenyan Football Premier League players. Each footballer will receive 10,000 shillings monthly for the next 3 months. The stipend for footballers is part of the 50 million shillings set aside by the government to cushion Kenyan sportsmen and women from the economic effects of the novel coronavirus pandemic.
I've agreed that we are starting with KPL because we know, after having done our verification, that those are the footballers that are suffering the most. And so we're beginning with them, and we will continue rolling it out for the next 15 days. And then we will take stock and see how many have been supported, how many are still out there and that need our support. So we're going to be paying the athletes directly and the sportsmen and women directly. So it's not, there's no, basket that will be going to, every athlete will get to begin with 10,000 Kenya shillings. And then we hope that we can do that again next month. Depending on how much money we have and how far we can stretch it, we will try and help as many sportsmen and women as we can.
The stipend for footballers is part of the 50 million shillings set aside by the government to cushion Kenyan sportsmen and women from the economic effects of the novel coronavirus pandemic. Harambee Stars midfielder Yohana Omolo, through his foundation, made donations to over 300 families reeling from economic aftershocks of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic in Dandora, Nairobi.
Most of these families, they are mamafua, casual workers, the laborer, the Juakali people, those are not moving at all. We have got also sick ladies, we have got also people with disabilities that we have targeted because the situation is not good. The situation is not good, and we are happy to serve them. But John Omolo himself cannot do it alone.
Bayern Munich remained on course to retain their Bundesliga title after beating Borussia Dortmund 1-0 in a Bundesliga match played in a surreal atmosphere at Signal Iduna Park. Joshua Kimmich's wonderful chip from 20 yards just before halftime was the only goal that separated the two sides after 90 minutes. Bayern are 7 points clear of their second-place opponents with 6 matches to go. Bayern are aiming for their 8th successive Bundesliga title. Following the win, Bayern lead the standings on 64 points, while Borussia second, 7 points adrift. RB Leipzig are ranked third, while Borussia Mönchengladbach is fourth, a point above Bayer Leverkusen as the two sides race for a slot in Europe. Paderborn, who fought to a barren draw against Augsburg, lie bottom, while Werder Bremen and Dusseldorf lie 17th and 16th respectively. A total of 7 matches are lined up this weekend, being the third weekend since the league returned amidst the coronavirus pandemic. The English Premier League is set to return on 17th, subject to government approval. A full round of fixtures will then be played on the weekend of 19th to 21st of June. There are 92 matches still to play, and the first to take place will be those. The 4 teams involved in the season will require 6 weekends and 3 midweek rounds. Liverpool sit 25 points clear at the top of the table, while Bournemouth, Aston Villa and Norwich are in the relegation places. The Reds, chasing a first league title in 30 years, could clinch it with victory in their first game back should second-place Manchester City lose to Arsenal. La Liga is set to return on June 11th. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez confirmed that La Liga had been given permission to resume behind closed doors following the coronavirus enforced hiatus. The first match will be played on June 12th, exactly 3 months after the suspension started, with Sevilla's home match against a bitter rivals Real Betis said to be the chosen match. La Liga's boss Javier Tebas confirmed the derby to be his desired fixture. Up to the stoppage of the La Liga season, Barcelona lead the standings on 58 points, 4 points. Up to the stoppage of the season, Barcelona were perched at the top of the standings, 2 points ahead of Real Madrid. The 2020 Dutch Grand Prix has been cancelled because of the global coronavirus pandemic. The race, returning to Formula One calendar for the first time since 1985, was due to be held on 3rd of May but was initially postponed. Formula One bosses are still in the process of putting together a revised calendar for the season. 2 races at Silverstone have been agreed, provided the British government's quarantine rules can exempt major sporting events. Belgium is another one of the countries at which Formula One hopes to hold the race after Austria was agreed before the Silverstone deal. Among the other potential hosts are the tracks originally intended to hold races this year in Spain, Hungary, France and Italy. Hockenheim in Germany, which was not on the original schedule, is on standby in case there is a vacant slot the tracks cannot fill. Each of the 10 teams will be limited to a maximum of 80 people each at races held without spectators when the delayed season gets going in July.
Unanipigia na reverse goal. Unajua ile kitu naweza reverse peke yake ni Land Rover, nikiendea wahalifu mahali wako ndio wakucha wameingia kwa Land Rover chup chup, lakini wewe kunipigia reverse goal. Why are you defrauding the government? No. Look for the airtime and call me. Okay?
Kupata police reverse, bonyeza star 811 star 960 hash. Bonyeza star 811 star 960 hash.
Unasikia?
Je, ungependa kujua jinsi ninavyojizuia kuambukizwa au kuambukizana virusi vya korona? Ni rahisi. Mwanzo, ninaziendesha shughuli zangu zote za kikazi na hata za kibiashara kutoka papa hapa nyumbani kwangu. Baadaye ninaitunza mwili wangu vyema kwa kuiweka katika hali iliyo sawa kupitia mazoezi ya mara kwa mara na pia lishe bora. Mwishowe, ninaungana na jamii yangu pamoja na marafiki zangu kupitia njia ya simu au mtandao ili kuzuia dhiki na upweke wakati huu mgumu. Kumbuka, haijalishi kama uko na virusi vya korona au la, salia nyumbani, uokoe maisha.
We want you to move both the meth and the money.
What's in it for me besides more cash?
A lot more cash.
Guys, we got company rolling in from the west, hard and fast.
I want Strager and the rest of his punk pilots in handcuffs by sundown.
You do what you gotta do to get him back.
You got my friend killed.
Running drugs made it happen.
Just giving us updates of what's been happening. And of course, the latest news is just feedback and when we might get most of the sporting disciplines back in action. And everyone is really hoping that things can normalize very soon and very fast so that we get back to normalcy. Well, as promised earlier on, we were done with the earlier segment of interview where we had David Thuo, who is a 5 major marathon runner, also hoping that he can make it to 6, looking at a 4:15 sub time in terms of running each kilometer in the Monday run that they are doing at Ngong Racecourse, not Ngong Racecourse, but at Ngong. They are hoping that they can do 42 kilometers in sub 3 hours. We wish them all the best, and we'll be following keenly, and we'll update you in our subsequent news bulletins of that performance as well. Now, we shift gears and move into another sport. This is one sport that there is a lot that's been happening around, more so for Kenya. There are lots of development coming up through Kenya Sevens, very, very instrumental in terms of coming up and putting Kenya in the map. We also have the 15s. They say when they play Simba ni moja. We are privileged and honored this afternoon to be joined by the 15s coach, Mr. Paul Odera, who is joining us just to update us of what's happening around rugby 15s and, of course, what plans they have with the 15s side. Remember, 15s are normally very crowded. That is the game that many rugby players enjoy. They say that sevens has a lot of pace and they're not ready for that. But for 15s, it's about power, it's about technique, it's about just getting the tries. Then the fans go a frenzy, just say we want another one just like the other one. Coach, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Amfa. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Yes, I can. Fine, thank you. Nice to see you after, all these tough times. The last time we met, we were in, Kenya Rugby Union, symposium. Was it a symposium or a status, update? I hope you've been keeping well since.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my best and trying to keep myself mentally fit, physically fit, and keep the boys working as well. And it's uncertain times, as you've said, for everyone, and it's quite tough.
I underline keeping yourself mentally fit. I underline the word mentally because it's important to be mentally fit at the moment. Coach, first and foremost, let me ask, COVID-19 here must have disrupted most of the plans around rugby in the country and, of course, outside the borders of the country.
Yeah, you're right. You saw the cancellation of the season or postponement of the season, and then I think the clubs then met with the Kenya Rugby Union, and they then reached a decision to have a postponement.
Coach, getting difficulties, yes?
When the government suspended also, that's been something that, yes, that's what I was saying. And after a look at the national teams, and
seem to be having some technicalities around connection. Yes, I can. Yes.
So all I was saying was that when the national team training sessions were suspended, it then meant that we've got to think of creative ways to keep the boys busy. But what we have to keep in mind is Rugby Africa, I think we are going to reach a decision probably to cancel the Africa Cup, the Gold Cup. And this is the second consecutive year that they are going to cancel that. So if that happens, it means the Simbas would not have played in the Gold Cup for 2 years. If you remember last year, Rugby Africa had financial difficulties and were not able to fund the Gold Cup. And then if they do reach a decision to cancel the Gold Cup this year, it then means the Simbas would have lost 2 years of playing at the highest level of rugby competition on the African continent. The Bates Cup as well was cancelled. Remember, we're defending champions for that. And that was to be held last month in April in Nairobi. And that also did not happen. So COVID-19 has impacted sport in Kenya and across the continent and across the world. So that means we've not been able to travel. Even to play our neighbors, Uganda, which we normally honor the fixture for the Elgon Cup, has not been able to happen. So that has been the effect of COVID-19. No international rugby competition, no local rugby competition, and no training for the national teams.
Well, tough there indeed because rugby is a contact sport and so much has happened. Before we go into your plans and what's been happening in the rugby scene, what do you think are some of the lessons that rugby has learned out of the COVID-19 pandemic, Coach?
Well, I'll talk from a Simba's perspective.
Please.
And the biggest lesson we've learned first is sport can be affected at the drop of a coin, because suddenly we were training and suddenly we're not training. So we've suddenly realized that factors beyond our control sometimes can have a huge influence on the team. The second thing that we've learned as a management team and as the players is there are 2 areas that we need to keep fit. Those are 2 areas, our bodies and our minds. And the body is easy to manage because you can see your muscles growing bigger. You can see that you're getting stronger, and you can see that you're getting fitter. The mind, though, is another different part of our body. And we have been working on mental fitness for the players, which has not been easy. So balancing physical and mental fitness is also a lesson that we are learning very quickly indeed. The third lesson that we've learned is that we are a very creative and innovative country, because we have had to be extremely creative in terms of how we manage training. For example, there are people who are near the mountain, Mount Elgon, deep up country. How are we going to manage a Zoom meeting, for example? We're taking it for granted because we're both in Nairobi. There's players who are in Transmara. There's one who told me, look, I had cattle here for the family every day. How are we going to get him on a Zoom meeting? And then there are players who've got land that they can run around, and there are players living in a flat or living in a shack in Mathare. Easy for someone who lives in a compound to be able to go out and do press-ups, etc. How about someone who lives in Umoja? Are they going to be able to get to do their fitness, to do their jogging? The gyms are closed. So for the third lesson has been that creativity and innovation is not just limited to young people. It needs all of us, old and young, to be creative and innovative when we are designing training sessions. So I think for those are the three lessons that we've learned as a management team in the Simbas with COVID-19.
Well, critical there, you've brought in very good angles. There are those who cannot be able to access technology, but whatever has to be done must be done. Now, the latest information coming through, Coach Paul Odera, is that you're working on a manual for 15th rugby in Kenya. What has prompted this? I mean, I look at football a couple of years back when we had Bernard Zgol, the German, coming into the country. He came up with a manual, and Kenyan football changed completely for some time, and results could be seen. What has prompted you to come up with a manual for 15th rugby in the country?
Well, it's two things. You've mentioned Bernard Zgol there, and in fact, when I was doing my first degree in international business, I had a semester where I was looking at Kenyan football, and the late Kenneth Matiba really, to me, inspired the fact that we would need to develop a program that lasts beyond individuals, because Kenneth Matiba is the one who brought in Bernard Zgol, and those Olympic Youth Centers are what led to the successful 1987 Gor Mahia team. As much as Gor Mahia fans may not like to take to give credit to that fact, but Kenneth Matiba is someone we need to give credit to that. So that was one. The second one, Ampha, was when I was in Bulawayo last year, and I was sitting with our liaison officer, who happened to be a former Kenya Sevens, a former Zimbabwe Sevens captain for the Sables, and I asked him, how do Zimbabwe come up with Zimbabwe under 14 rugby team? So he then took me through the process. He said, okay, so what would happen? For example, here, if we were in Zimbabwe, the way they'd come up with the Zimbabwe under 14 team is they'd first get the private schools and the government schools to have separate competition. So if you lived in Dagoretti North, for example, Milimani, Kilimani Primary School would all get into a competition, and then the public primary schools would choose a team. Then the private schools around the area, Makini, Riara, etc., would also get into a competition and choose a team. And then those two teams would then play against each other. So then Dagoretti North would be able to produce a team for the under 14. And then this would be going on across the county. So eventually, once these competitions would come together to produce Nairobi under 14 county team, which would then play against a Mombasa under 14 county team. So when he was talking to me, and I wondered, Zimbabwe are going through such economic and political turmoil, yet they're still able to do that. So that's what got me thinking. So I came back and said, right, what can we do? What can I do first as an individual to begin the process of looking for Kenya to produce a style of rugby? Okay, so you've asked what prompted my thinking. So it's those two incidents. One was that bit when I thought of how Kenyan football was actually quite strong across the continent. Remember, we were qualifying for the Africa Cup of Nations, and how many teams were allowed in the Africa Cup of Nations at that time? Was it 12?
Only 12.
Was it 10?
12.
Just 12?
Yes.
And we were able to get in. And now we have, is it 24? Or
24, yes.
32, I think. Yeah. So imagine with half the teams, Kenya was still able to get into the Africa Cup of Nations. And then Gor, of course, won the Nelson Mandela Cup. I mean, I was there. I was at Kasarani on that afternoon. I was in Standard 5. But I was not going to miss that match for anything. So now, for the question is, how do we produce a document that can support a style of rugby in Kenya to be developed? And that's the premise I've started from. Because to produce a manual must be able to have a goal and an objective. And the goal and the objective of the manual is that Kenya now needs to develop its own style of rugby at the Simbas that is unique to us, that takes into account our circumstances, takes into account our skill levels, takes into account our conditioning of our players, takes into account our culture. There's a Kenyan way. You know, if you go out of Kenya, guys always say, those Kenyans. So what is it about that Kenyan that has a particular culture? Because all those dictate the style of rugby that we're going to play. So that's what prompted me to start thinking about starting that. And I'm fortunate that I'm in a position where, as the Simba's coach, I can be able to get a document that at least takes in considerations and the views of different stakeholders. Because you've covered sports for a long time. You know, national coaches, we come and go. There can be a board meeting on Tuesday, and Paulo Dera may not be the Simba's coach, and it happens. If you remember, is it Joe Bomino?
Yes.
Who said Fabish, coaches come
and go.
And coaches go.
Yes.
Coaches come and go, so that's what I said. Can I start a process, even if I don't finish it in my tenure as the Simba's coach, but start a process where we can develop a style of rugby, and we can support schools, and we can support universities, and we can support clubs, because I get players from universities, from clubs, and from schools. I don't give those institution players, they give me players. So how do we support that? So I'm for that, if that answers your question, in terms of what prompted me to look at developing a manual that can address a style of play.
So does that mean that the same will be shared with all the coaches within the Kenyan Kenya Cup or any rugby structure in the country, and that makes it easy when players are called into the national team, because they've been going through a manual that makes it very easy for you as a coach or any other coach that is there to really focus on tactics and get the ball going?
Yeah, because you're right. The temptation sometimes in a position of responsibility like I am in is to try and have a top-down approach to getting out information, I beg your pardon, or in trying to develop certain systems. So what I did first was had a skeleton draft which sent out to club coaches. So I've been meeting club coaches once a week. And we said, let's start with Kenya Cup, then we'll go to nationwide, and then we can then get schools coaches as well. And I think I'd wanted to share with you a screen. I don't know, is it possible? Just try, let's see. Let's see if we can actually share the screen. What are the viewers seeing now?
Yes, yes, very clear. I can see it. But
what factors determine a style of So if you look at this, Amfa, in terms of what factors determine a style of rugby, which is what I've talked about. So the skill sets of available players, their physicality, their nutrition, the environment of the local club union, and then the conditions. Remember, if you're playing in wet weather, if you're playing in dry weather, hard ground, soft ground, these all determine it, and then a national culture. So the question was, I don't know, do we have time to go through maybe the style of the world champions, perhaps?
Not all, just maybe just the key pointers that you'd want to share.
So I'd say, if you look at South Africa, this is how they play. They play territory, powerful set piece, and aggressive defense. And the evidence can be found in the data from the World Cup. And this is what I researched and looked at the data. The number of lineouts. They only lost one lineout in the whole World Cup. 99%.
Only one.
In the lineout. One lineout, the whole World Cup, all the way to the final. If you look at that, they scored half of their tries from their opponent's 22-meter line, so very close to their 22-meter line. So this evidence points to that. So now, this is what prompted me to look at, let's come to Kenya. We have two types of players at the moment in the Simbas.
Yes.
One type of player in the Simbas, we have from our, we call them the Independent Association of Preparatory Schools. They start playing rugby at under 9. So under 9, under 11, under 14. At under 16, the players who have in the Simbas now from this system either go to South Africa or to the United Kingdom, Scotland, Wales, and England. Then they go into under 19 and under 18, under 19, and then into adult rugby. So some play club rugby abroad, some come back. So that's one type of Simba. So let's call that a type 1 Simba. Type 2 Simbas at this lot here, who start, when they get into high school, they start probably at under 18. And then they go to under 19, and then they're into adult rugby. The challenge is, Amfa, is if you look at the numbers, if you look at the fact that here. So the Type 1 Simba AMFA has, on average, one coach to 20 to 25 rugby players from when they're 9 years old, all the way up until they get to university. The Type 2 player, and your son has played rugby as well. In primary school, there is no rugby that exists through the schools. When they get into secondary school, you have the Kenya Secondary Sports of Association games. You have probably one coach for 1,000 rugby players, or 1,000 boys, if we call them that. When they get into university, we have now the Kenya University Sports Association, where you have one coach for about 500 rugby players.
Wow.
Then you have then you get into Kenya Cup and the senior games, where there's one coach for every 60 to 100 players. You tell me, between a player going through this system and that system, at the age of 19 or 20, who's going to be more skillful?
I mean, it's so clear, black and white.
It's black and white, isn't it? And,
yes.
and now, that has put me to make three choices. Option one, I could pick the Type 1 players. I could, because those players are skilled from when they're very young, and when we put them in, I'll achieve results very quickly. So, as a national coach, if I'm just focused on getting us to France in 2023, winning those games, this is the type of player I'd pick. Or we could have our Type 2 players. They're not very skillful, but they're very hard, those boys. And they think very quickly because they've learned to survive, and they've learned things on their own. It will be slow progress, but longer term gain. So the option I've chosen, AMFA, which is the responsible thing to do as a national coach, is to pick a balance between Type 1 Simbas and Type 2 Simbas. So that is a mix of cultures, races, backgrounds. There are those from very wealthy families. I mean, the Type 1 players come from families who can afford to send them abroad. Type 2 players, there's a whole spectrum. There are those from Viara, Makini, Strathmore, St. Mary's, all the way down to the slum. So those are the Type 2 players that we have. Players in Lenana, Nairobi School, players in Kakamega High, Maseno. So that's what I've chosen. It's much harder, but that's the option I've taken. So AMFA, with that decision, where now we are going to try and blend Type 1 and Type 2 Simbas, what style of rugby are we going to be able to develop that is suitable to the Kenyan way of approaching the game? So the club coaches have been very supportive of this process. And in fact, when we had a meeting on Wednesday, we are then tending towards the fact that, are there certain positions that we can have this Type 1 of Simba, these young men who come from this system? And then are there certain positions on the rugby field where these boys who may not be as skillful but are hard, as I'm told normally, it's ambao mekula ugali is what I'm normally told, to reflect on this type of player here. So it would be irresponsible for me to ignore these players, because is it their fault, really?
No, it's not.
These young men.
No,
it's not their fault. It's the system of education has that resources are limited and resources are stretched. So the number of teachers, even per student, I think class sizes there normally are 70, 80, almost some may even have 90 students per class. So these young men have not done anything wrong. What we now need to do is we need to support these young men to try and get to be as skillful as a Type 1 Simba. So that is where I've started in terms of how do we generate a style of rugby. Once we're done with that, this document will then be given to clubs, then from clubs and universities, then from clubs and universities to high schools. So you're going to find that the manual has segments. It's going to have a segment for adult rugby, it's going to have a segment for high schools, and it's also going to have a segment for primary schools. So that if a teacher, if a headmaster or headmistress needs help based on the document, all they need to do is just call us and say, look, I have some young men who want to play. There's a teacher who is keen to support them, although they're not a rugby person. Page 8 of the manual is where they're struggling. Then we can go in and help. I don't know if that makes sense.
Very good insights there, Coach Paul Odera. Very clear, because it shows the growth of rugby, and it clearly shows that you've captured all, the age groups, clearly showing that for you to be successful, you have to start at the base, going all the way up. Very well captured. Coach, now with a manual in place that would standardize or would showcase how Kenya wants to go forward, the style Kenya play, is this going to address, some areas like how do we go into a scrum, how do we handle racks, everything that needs to be out there, breakdowns, how do we handle restarts and start? Is that going to be captured in the manual that the coaches can easily work on?
Yes, in fact, you've hit the nail on the head. So this manual now must capture the basics of the game of rugby. Rugby is an invasion game. So invasion game means you are trying to invade your opponent's territory, and when you score, if you score more points at the end of the game, you are the victor. So the set piece, which is the scrum and the line out, is an area we must address. Now, if you look at the Kenyan body type. Amfa, who's the tallest Kenyan you've met?
Do I say tall?
How tall are they?
Hayange? Tall.
He's 6'4", maybe?
Maybe. Musa Otieno?
Yeah.
Maybe more or less.
6'5".
Yes. Something like that.
Yeah. South Africa have 6'9", 6'10", okay, 6'11". A 6'4", 6'5" South African rugby player for the forwards is average. For us, it's a really tall person. So we now have to look at, in the scrums and in the lineouts particularly, we have to settle on very fast, very quick players, because we're not going to be as tall. Do you see that?
Yes.
So that's what we have to look at. Number two, if you're looking at some of the weights of the rugby players at the World Cup, 115 kilos, 120 kilos, 125 kilos, easily for some of those players. If you look at, do you look at Samoan and Tongans?
Yes.
The Polynesians. So, for example, take Manonu, who was playing for New Zealand, but is a Polynesian. He, at 102 kilos, is moving as fast as a Kenyan player who's 80. Not even as fast. His agility, his nimbleness, his sleight of foot, his quickness of foot is as good as a 70, 80 kilo player. Now, if we try and get our players in the same position to be 100, 105 kilos, we start getting obese players or players who cannot move or are not as agile. Do you see that?
Yes.
So we've made mistakes in the past where we are saying we want our number 12 or our inside center to be 100 plus kilos. And yes, we're able to get players like that. But what we're not able to get is agility and movement. So I'll give you just maybe a bit of a window into where the manual is going and our thinking. Wouldn't we rather get someone who's 80 kilos, but dry, like, some of those hard guys you get from Western Kenya, really just sinew, bone, and muscle, almost a weapon, and then get them to move so that even at 80 kilos, they're not giving anything away to a player who's 100 kilos, isn't it?
Totally agree.
So now that's to do with the scrum. To do with racks, which is what you've asked as well. Now, to do with the breakdown, we've then got to make a decision. If you go and watch Kenya rugby now, the thing the crowd cheers the most is what they call a stool in slang.
Yes.
Which is when someone
power
really hard and smashes another opponent into the ground. The crowd goes mad.
The Oscar Ouma way.
Now you see, when Oscar Ouma gets the ball, everyone's already stunned.
Yes.
Okay, cheering and shouting his name because they're sure that someone is going to fall flat on their backside because Oscar Ouma has knocked them over.
But let me ask, Coach, one perennial problem that Kenya has is conversions. Ever since Biko Adema, we know very well, right now we are seeing a new crop of players coming up, Zola, Olindi, and stuff. How are we going to, make sure that this is one key point that gives us more points?
Now, you've got a very valid point. For example, the young man we had called Zola, who was in the under-20s, probably had one of the best kicks that we've seen in a long time. It wasn't consistent, but in terms of distance and the power it could generate. So a player like that is one we are still watching, because if we can develop other parts of his game, it is crucial. Because if you notice when we went to Brazil last year, and if you notice when Kenya went to play in the repechage against Canada and Hong Kong, once teams figured out that, one, these people can't kick very far, then all they do is they pin us in the half, and then when we kick the ball out, it won't be very far from our try line. So kicking is a very important part. And what I had done before COVID struck is we were going to get Neil de Kock, who's a former Springbok, who's a kicking specialist. So he was actually going to come to Kenya. And we really wanted him to work with our 20, 21-year-olds across club and across the national team. Because if we can start developing kickers, if you looked at South Africa, Andre Pollard was, I think, the top point scorer in the World Cup. His kicking was unbelievable. And South Africa, if you notice, have always produced fly halves who can kick and kick well and kick consistently. So that is one area that we need to start developing, our kickers. And we need specialists, and that's one area that we've targeted, that we need specialists for, to get us points and also to be able to get us into good positions where we can attack. So you're right, Amfa, you have been an astute student of the game by what you've been watching. And that is one area that we are looking to see if we can develop it. The manual may not answer all the questions, but at least it will point us in the right direction in terms of what areas we need to develop. So what you're looking at is that the type 1 Simba, the type of player who started the game earlier, may have an advantage because they've been practicing how to kick properly for a lot longer than some of our youngsters.
Thank you very much, Coach. My director tells me we have to wind up, and I'm insisting we need to invite you in studio so that we go through this, or come in one of the training grounds for us to do the same. But, Coach, there is a new segment in the show, probably that you've never interacted with, that we will throw you under the bus for, and this is the quickfire segment. This segment, you are asked 5 questions just to test your knowledge of the sport. Don't worry. So I hope you're ready for the quick fire section. And if you're ready...
I'm not ready. I'm not ready, Ampa, but you've already told the whole of Kenya that it's coming up. I can't hide now. I can't say the internet, the connection's bad.
All right, let's take it away. Here comes your question. Question number 1. Who are the defending Bathurst Cup? Who are the defending champions in Bathurst Cup?
Chipu.
Chipu, that is Kenya. Correct. Question number 2. Name Kenya 15's perennial rivals and the team that Kenya 15's targets to beat in Africa every season.
Namibia.
Namibia, correct. Question number 3. Name the Kenya Cup finalists in the last season of Kenya Cup.
KCB Cabras.
KCB Cabras, correct. Question number 4. They are called Malkia Strikers. That's the name of which Kenya national women's team?
Volleyball.
Volleyball, correct. The last question for you. The current world champions in 15th rugby are, and which team did they beat in the finals?
South Africa, the Springboks, and they beat England in the final.
Very correct. You have to scrap.
Ampa, you're very naughty. You know, I'm a teacher. If you're one of my students, you'd be in the corner.
Thank you very much, Coach. We appreciate you making time with us, and we really look forward to the 15th manual and hope that when all things settle down, we will invite you so that you take us through. We appreciate your time.
Ampa, always enjoy coming on your show. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciated. That was our 15th coach, Paul Odera, there with us, getting it into the quickfire section, but not very ready. But nonetheless, 5 out of 5 for him tells us that he is up to scratch with all that he does, not just rugby. If we can name Malkia Strikers, then he keeps tabs with what's happening in the other sports as well. We'll go into a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll go into another interview section. And remember, we're also keeping an eye on what's happening happening at Ministry of Health from a COVID-19 update. When that's ready, we'll let you know, and we'll link up with the team at Ministry of Health headquarters. For now, we go into a break. Thank you very much.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Wasakaya, I repeat the one with the flowers. Let real men make money. You shall get your time. Madam Kamene, please keep your sweetheart company there.
So, you think putting a flower on top of his desk is going to sort your issues, eh?
Yes, of course, why not? I saw it in a movie that when you want to apologize to your loved one, you buy them a flower, and it is very cute and romantic.
Young man, confirm your opinion and your comments to yourself.
I refuse to let myself accept that we will lose today.
Stop nagging me. But if you continue like this, I'm going to swap seats. Okay? I'll get somebody else to sit here.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
At the Uhuru Stadium.
Kitolewa alitoka kilo chache, kilo 1 point, alikuwa 1.5. Ikabidi apelekwe nasari. Kupelekwa nasari akawa kuna ugonjwa unaitwa jaundice.
Akawa inakoma na alikaa kwa muda wa mwezi mmoja inakoma, na baada ya hapo hakuweza kuongea tena wala kufanya kitu chochote wala kutembea, alikaa tu akiwa amelemaa.
'Cause we're differently abled, differently.
Was a short commercial break, and of course before that we had coach Paul Odera, the 15th coach, just 15th coach that's in rugby, just giving us an update of what's been happening around the rugby fields in terms of preparations at what the teams have been doing. Coming up with a manual to put Kenya 15th playing style in one that everybody just gets to love, and it brings a lot of cohesion in the team, as realized in the last training camps, in the different sporting disciplines that people take part in. You realize that coaches come and they take so much time to bring the players into one playing style, and that consumes a lot of time. Coach Paul Odera at the moment is really trying to come up with something so that we link up with the team. Paul Odera coming up with a playing style that makes it easy when national team members come together. Then it is plug and play, and everything just runs very well. So much has been happening from a rugby 15th point, and their biggest perennial rivals have been Namibia. Like he said, he wasn't ready for the quickfire section, but he also proved to us that he understands his sports. We are linking up shortly with our next guest who will be taking us through what's been happening. And this afternoon, we are very, very privileged to have with us the Kenya Basketball Federation President, Mr. Paul Otula, to update us of what's been happening around basketball in the country, so that we also get to know what's happening from that point as well. I believe we are already in connection with Mr. Otula. Mr. Otula, good afternoon. Yes, thank you very much for making time to be with us, and karibu sana to the show. Hope you're keeping well and you're safe during these tough COVID times.
Yes, sir.
Karibu sana, Mr. Otula. We appreciate you making time to be with us. From a COVID-19 point of view, what's the update from a Kenya Basketball Federation point? How has it affected basketball? We know the league was to start in April, and that has not happened yet. What's the extent of COVID-19 in terms of disrupting the Kenya basketball field?
The impact of COVID-19 actually has affected many sporting activities grossly. However, it came at a time when we were planning and we were comparing notes with clubs. We wanted to change our season so that it synchronizes with the international calendar. So if the country will open up before September, then that decision would really fit for us, because by now our league should have begun. But we were debating with clubs, and they were ready for it, that we should put our activities in tandem with the international calendar of events, which usually begins in September.
Well, that's one point that we will be talking about, Mr. Otula. And as we look into that, the league was to start, and you've mentioned about Kenya also. Kenya is, just to bring our viewers up to speed, Kenya is the only African country still not aligned to the African calendar. Do you want to start with the African calendar first, or you want to go with the FIBA calendar, or you want to handle both and align both of them at the same time?
I think for now, whether we like it or not, we have to align ourselves with the international calendar, which I would say naturally fits into the plans that we had put in place to implement this year. So I think we are not behind any program. So we are just encouraging our players to keep fit, keep safe, and to ensure that they don't lose their momentum, because basketball is a game where you can even train as an individual.
Very good point brought in terms of training as an individual. Before we go into the trainings and status of that, we were expecting to also have Kenya Basketball Federation elections at some time. COVID-19 affected everything. What's the future, or what's the plan around elections within the federation?
Yeah, the elections right now, we were supposed to have held them in the month of April. We were more than ready to have them, because it also coincides with our AGM. And when the ministry sent a word to all sporting federations to defer their activities, we also did the same. So our first major activity, once the sporting calendar is going to reopen, will be the election, so that we have new office bearers. And I want to use this opportunity to encourage aspirants to campaign in peace and in harmony, so that they sell whatever they want to share with the basketball fraternity in a very peaceful and mature way.
You've mentioned that are you vying for the presidency for the second term that the Constitution allows you to?
Maybe it is too soon, because the government put on hold all sporting activities, and it will not be fair for me to use this forum or to use this platform as a campaign, because all sporting activities, including elections, were deferred until COVID-19 is dealt with in a level that the economy can reopen. Then now all other activities, including elections, office bearers, you can step forward and campaign. So I would wish to say that for now, that's what I can say.
Okay, now how do you rate your office now that your term has come to an end? We must appreciate and we must also acknowledge that some positives were there. We saw very good performance by Morans, something that has not been there in the in the recent years. What was the main factor behind Morans? Because they played and performed beyond expectations of many.
One, I have to say, I have to give special commendation to the boys. It's a team that is hard to break. It's a team beyond just the game of basketball. They are united. They train as a family. They know one another so well. They network. So when they took that chemistry to the pitch, it was a very difficult team to crack because these are youngsters who are ready to do duty for this country regardless of whatever challenges that came in place. The other point is that I think for the first time, the executive decided to be hands-on when it comes to managing of the national team. I think because of work requirements, quite a number of us were working outside Nairobi, but once we moved into Nairobi, it became a lot easier for us to give very personal work with the national team. The other bit is the sponsorship. We really want to thank Badoa Investment for coming in at the right time to support our national team. Actually, they are coming in, enable us now to bring our players in the diaspora. We could pay for their air tickets. Those who had come with their own, who had booked their own air tickets, we reimbursed them. And you saw even the last time when some of them were busy in their EuroLeague, we had to get some players from the US. And that is courtesy of Badoa Investment.
You've mentioned very good performance, which we must appreciate and applaud from the men's side. On the reverse, we saw a decline in performance from the ladies' side because over the past years, it's always been the ladies who've been shining. This time around, the boys, outshone them. What do you think attributed to this, and how do we get back the ladies at par with the men so that we drive consistency going forward, so that we are a force in both men and ladies basketball in the country and in the region?
I think let's not take away the achievements of the ladies. Those of us who are in sports and followed those games very closely, even if our ladies lost, the margins were very narrow. It was a very competitive qualifier. The margins were very narrow. We were slightly disadvantaged because instead of the 12 girls traveling, they only traveled 10, which worked against them. And then one of our key players was due to return to the US. So we could not, and she's actually the person who made us to qualify for that championship, but she was unable because of college work. She had to fly back to the US. But that aside, the ladies gave it their best, and still we are very proud of them. That tournament, any team had a mathematical chance of winning. It's only that they were not lucky this time round. But we still have a very strong ladies' side.
Now with the ladies and the men performing well, they lost narrowly, as you've alluded to. What do you think we need to continue doing in terms of having them at the top of Africa? The men came that close, losing narrowly. Same to the ladies. What do we need to do so that we continue with the same performance? You've mentioned sponsorship that came in, good network of some of the players, and the passion and the drive from them. Is there any other thing that we need to do so that we continue with the same performance going forward?
Maybe this is not the best forum to give all the details because right now the team to beat in Africa is the Morans. We'll maintain the same team. We are going to do a lot more of high altitude training, which is a big plus for any Kenyan team. I would wish that the rest we leave it close to our strategies, because our opponents, I think the team they dread most right now is Kenya.
All right, we'll respect that, Mr. Otula, because, I mean, they are watching and it could be a strategy like you put it. But you've mentioned a sponsorship deal with Badoa. What was it about, and do we expect to see the same going into this year?
I didn't get your question.
I'm saying you've mentioned about the sponsorship with Badoa. Are we likely to see the same continue this year and probably going into next year, or it was just a once-off deal?
The momentum that we have now is unstoppable. I think we are ready with all stakeholders to ensure that the level of basketball that has been witnessed in Kenya will never, ever go down. And it's our prayer and hope that even during these hard times, all those stakeholders who came together and fought with us together are still going to stand with us until we finish this mission. And our mission is to ensure that the Morans qualify for World Championship. We stand a very big chance. And I want to use this opportunity once again to thank Badoa Investment for coming in at the right time. And I'm sure they are still going to walk this journey with us, because their presence will mean a lot in the next level of championship. I think this is their first time in Africa. And for them to appear at that level of AfroBasket qualifiers, it will also mean a lot for their company and organization.
I mean, we appreciate when sponsors come in to support and also be part of any sport in the country to improve the sport as well. We are going through tough COVID-19 times, Mr. Otula, and we've seen other federations trying to seek funds to support and cushion their members. Is the Basketball Federation working on something to at least cushion some of their players? Because looking at the Basketball League, you realize that not many teams are having sponsorships, and some are going through very tough times. What is the Kenya Basketball Federation doing in terms of trying to cushion some of their teams and some of their players?
Actually, the biggest stakeholders in sports in this country still remains the government. And we want to thank the government for coming in to bail out players during these difficult times, because these are youngsters who have chosen sports as a career. It is sports that earns them a living. When everything comes to a stop, it is a very difficult period for them. So whatever effort the government is putting in place to alleviate at least the kind of challenges they are facing, we really appreciate, especially those of us in the leadership of different sports. Whatever the government decided for other federations, it cuts across all sporting activities, not just the few that maybe we have read in the papers. We have also been approached, and we have forwarded those names, and we hope that soon and very soon, our players whose names were forwarded to the government are also going to get some upkeep so that they can survive during these difficult times. I want to use this chance also to thank the government for walking the journey with us. There is no single international qualifiers where the government has failed to step in whichever way to support us to ensure that we succeed.
I mean, government support, you've mentioned the government, key stakeholders in this, and government are trying to bring up sports and trying to come up with some funds to at least cushion some of the athletes. Mr. Otula, we've seen, many players are going out to play professional basketball in the country. Does this show that Kenya in the near future will be a force to reckon with more than it is now, with the potential of more athletes going to play professional?
That is true. Actually, the team to beat even in Zone 5 is Kenya. And it is for that reason that immediately after the championship that just ended, I think quite a number of our players got professional stints outside the country. We have Ariel Local in Algeria. We have Ronnie Gundo in Spain, actually in the top tier league. We have one of us, that is Okari in Denmark. And there are quite a number of players who are supposed to have gone for their professional stint. By the time they were supposed to fly out, that is when this COVID-19 lockdown came in, and they have not been able to do so. However, we have top-class players who can fit in any league in the world, courtesy of the support that we've been getting from the stakeholders, which has encouraged our talents who have been in the diaspora to come back and do duty for our country.
Wishing that that continues because the more we have, the better it becomes. We have some self-sponsored teams in the Kenya Basketball League. With COVID-19, some even risk being disbanded, not being able to come back strong. Is there anything that the Federation can do in terms of supporting some of these self-sponsored teams?
Yes, actually, we had big plans for the self-sponsored team. Unfortunately, by the time we were landing some sponsorship, it coincided with so many international events for our national team, that is both the men and the women. And it is at that time that we had to focus so much to ensure that our participation is a success. But we are sure that with limited international participation, and we are very confident that this time around, with the changes we have seen in the ministry, federations are going to get more support so that we don't dig so deep into our pockets. Once, because it is the prerogative of the government to sponsor the national team. But when the government does not step in to sponsor the national team, for one reason or the other, it forces federations to dig deep and ensure that we participate, because failure to participate is usually, the consequences are more dire than actual participation. So we had to consolidate the funds that we have to ensure that we honor all our international duties due to the challenges that at that time the government was going through.
Looking forward to that and wishing that, that really comes up. Mr. Otula, you mentioned about Kenya basketball, getting aligned with the international calendar. What do you think are the advantages or disadvantages of doing that now? Would you say that COVID-19 has come as a blessing in disguise, in that as we are in this period, it gives us time to align with the calendar? Would you attribute it that way, or what would you look at in terms of if the league started in April and we have to align with the international calendar in September? Would it have meant that we run fast and finish to join the September calendar? What do you think are the scenarios that are there for Kenya to fully, align with the international calendar as at now?
Now, being in tandem with the international calendar is a big plus for any league, because it comes when all players have the requisite fitness. But when your league is not in tandem with the international calendar of events, it will mean that our teams have to go in camp much longer than other countries whose calendar of events are in line with the international qualifiers. So this time round, we expect our teams, especially clubs, to perform better, because the international qualifiers are going to come when the players are in their top shape.
A very good point in terms of aligning and, getting into shape for the calendar and the same. Mr. Otula, there seems to be a very good, relationship with the Ministry of Sports as at now, with federations. How are we using this to push for more facilities to be opened up for basketballers in the country? At the moment, it's only Nyayo Stadium that can be used from an international standards point, and probably Kasarani. Are we using the relationship now to open up more facilities to improve the game?
Thank you for that. I think we really want to thank the new team in the Ministry of Sports. They are really pro sports. They really love the youngsters in sports. They are more than enthusiastic to support them. They have just gotten into office. I know we expect so much from them, but already they are already, by supporting athletes who survive on sports and cannot survive on sports right now due to COVID-19, their gesture of coming in to give them a stipend already shows that we have people who have the heart for our athletes. We have the people who have the heart to support sports. So from now, when the economy reopens, I think we have the right team, and this is the best time for sports in this country. Already, I think rumors have gone round that Nyayo Stadium is complete. That's a big plus to many federations that were using Nyayo Stadium, and we hope it won't take long before Kasarani is also open for other federations. So already that's a very good start for us, and we are expecting a lot more from them. I think this is the best that the Ministry of Sports has ever had in a long time.
Well, I mean, it's credible to hear that, and as we say, Mgala muwe haki yake mpe. We give credit where credit is due, and it's good that federations are appreciating the work that done by the ministry in terms of trying to streamline and support the same. Mr. Otula, what about the technical angle to it? And when I say technical angle, I'm looking at the coaches, I'm looking at the referees. Is all okay from that point? And how do we again now push the same to the schools so that we continue the vibrancy that is in the schools? When you look at the schools league, you look at the university leagues, very, very stiff, and even the Kenya Basketball Federation leagues. How do we ensure that, officiating is up to scratch? We also have seminars for our coaches to ensure that we improve the sport.
Yes, thank you. Now, we have already preempted that, and we have delegated the Assistant Secretary, Mr. Kisoi, who is still a very young and very technical in terms of coaching and reffing. He is coordinating events. I think once again the COVID-19 has slowed us down when it comes to, because usually before the season begins, we have in place several clinics and seminars for coaches and for referees in the whole country. But right now they cannot take place. I am aware of a few that have been having Zoom sessions, especially for national coaches. But we want to ensure that we spread to all the 47 counties, and where we can't, we'll go to the regional 8 provinces or 8 regions in this country. So before September, we are going to start by upgrading and training the referees and the coaches. But when it comes to the national team, the Morans, I think we have one of the best coaches in the region. But that aside, we are also going to come, we also plan to put in place as a senior board that will work behind the scene with the national team coach. These are old coaches, these are veterans in this country. We are going to put them together so that the national team coaches have a think tank that helps them to propel the national team. So usually the technical part of the game comes before the season begins. So we hope if the economy opens, for instance, in the month of June, then we are going to release our calendar of events for training of referees and coaches at different levels. And the climax is usually the international one, which we have also applied to host.
Well, we are looking at very tough times and interesting times coming up. We seem to have lost our connectivity with Mr. Otula. But the technical team is working on that so that we continue and close out with Mr. Otula. But remember, like mentioned earlier on, we will be linking up with the teams at Ministry of Health headquarters in terms of bringing us up to speed with what's happening around COVID-19. We will be linking up with the team there later on at Ministry of Health, just to give us statistics of what's been happening around around COVID-19 over the last 24 hours. When the team is ready from Ministry of Health, we will let you know, as we still try get connectivity with Mr. Paul Otula, the Kenya Basketball Federation president. I can see Mr. Otula back with us. Mr. Otula, another question that one would want answered, or probably just to get your view, is what is the plan around youth development? We all understand that if we want to get the best at the top, we must get it right at the base. What's the plan around ensuring that there is consistency over that? We seem not to be able to get to Mr. Otula, but we are trying to, to sort out that in a bit. Once that is done, we will let you know in a second with Mr. Otula. I don't know whether Mr. Otula is with us. If he is. Mr. Otula, I can see you are with us. What's the plan around youth development? Remember, if we are to get it right at the top, we must get it right at the base. Is there a plan around youth development?
The Kenya Basketball Federation has encouraged so many youth academies, and Nairobi takes a lead role. We are no longer just depending on schools alone. And we also want to thank the senior coaches who, during off-season, they organize youth training camps where these youngsters come together and they harness skills that they cannot get in schools. But still, our best center for youth development remains schools. So schools that are active in basketball, we assist by training the coaches and once in a while providing facilities, especially schools that are in need. And it has gone a long way in building up of the national team and also the Premier League, where most of these students head to after high school or after college.
A good point there, Mr. Otula, in terms of, just talking to the basketball fraternity as at now. What would your message be to the basketball family in the country watching you now as we start winding up?
My point is basketball is rising very fast. Our intention is to be a world beater, but of course to be the number one team sport in Kenya. Already Morans has motivated so many basketballers in this country. Our ladies are also saying that this time round, they are going to give more runs around for their money. Actually, we have one of the strongest ladies side. Whatever happened in Dhaka, I think was just unfortunate. The girls did their best. And even the margins in which they lost those other matches was not big. That meant that any team in that tournament would have emerged the champions. We are a little bit disadvantaged by sending an understrength team due to financial constraints at that time and miscommunication. But basketball is on the rise. We want to encourage parents to support their children who have picked up the game of basketball. And the Morans have shown the rest of the other players in the league, in the colleges, that there are opportunities out there through sports. Quite a number of them are playing professionals in different and very competitive leagues in Denmark, in Tunisia, in Rwanda, in Spain, and of course in France. One of our best players in the last just concluded regional qualifier, Nyakundi, is plying his trade in France. And from that game that we had with South Sudan, quite a number of scouts had targeted so many of our players. Unfortunately, this COVID thing came in, but we hope once the economy opens up, we're going to have a big team. Most of our players also get an opportunity to be professionals out there. So once again, we want to reassure Kenyans, we want to reassure all stakeholders that we are on the right path. Please let us walk this journey together.
Thank you, Mr. Otula. The final question, are there any learnings that as a federation, you have picked, from COVID-19, basketball being a team sport? We are seeing resumption of some of the team sports in empty stadiums and things like that. Are there any learnings that you've picked as a federation going forward should the leagues resume?
Actually, COVID-19 has been a humbling experience to the sporting fraternity. But if I assume I've gotten your question right, I think I've learned a lot, especially from our young basketballers. They have gone out of their way to sensitize the public on how to keep safe and secure. They have been participating in community service. But the other learning that has also come out is their creativity. I think quite a number of our players, out of their own ingenuity, they have kept fit and they have kept on posting their level of fitness to all of us, and we are very appreciative that once the season opens, it is going to be business as usual because the players have remained very disciplined.
Thank you very much, Mr. Otula, for making time to be with us and just, giving us an update of what's been happening or what's happening around COVID-19 and the basketball, fraternity in terms of the affected leagues. But the key take home there is trying to make sure that the basketball league in the country is aligned to the international calendar, which is a key thing that many countries would want to be at. We appreciate you making time to be with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Paul Otula, who is the President, Kenya Basketball Federation, just updating us of what's happening around the basketball, family in the country, updating us. Elections were supposed to have been held in April, affected by COVID-19. He's also asked all those aspirants to go out there, not to go out there, but to campaign in their different ways, but in peace, because by the end of the day, still, we will be brothers and sisters after elections. He's also mentioned about, talking about the successes, the Morans having performed very well. Also mentioning that the ladies lost very narrowly to, the teams that they were playing against. That's in Dakar, in Senegal. He also mentions that we are still the team to beat. And remember, remaining number one is easy, but getting it again there is not easy. But the successes are there for everyone to see in terms of the teams remaining up there and remaining afloat in terms of being the team to beat in the region. Wishing all the teams all the best of luck and all the best in their future endeavors. He's also appreciated all the good work being done by the Basketball Federation and, of course, the young players going out there to support in communities, also in terms of supporting. Very, very good initiatives there indeed. Talking about all the plans that are there for the Federation. We appreciate Mr. Otula making time to be with us this afternoon. Well, at that point, we want to wrap it up. We want to say thank you very much for having been with us and kept us company this afternoon. On behalf of everyone who's been behind this, the transmission controller, the director, the producer, the cameraman, the sound technicians, we want to say thank you very much. Remember, COVID-19 updates are still coming up later on when the teams at Ministry of Health will be ready. But for now, we leave you with the prodigy where we are featuring Brian Mutua, a table tennis player. Then after that, we will be linking up with the team at Ministry of Health headquarters. From me, as I always say, kona na kesho ni majalio yake Mwenyezi Mungu. Bye-bye for now. We are glad you're watching.
Brian Mutua is currently the top seed in the Table Tennis Association, who stormed into the scene recently after taking to the sport while at Mwala School.
I was in high school and then in 2011, I think, in Mwala School. I was so small, and the coach decided to choose the smallest Form 1s to join the game. So that's how I got into the game. And from then, it has just been fun till 2015 after I finished high school. Is when I started to train seriously.
We discovered him in Machakos, where he used to school. That's Mwala. After he has gotten the basic table tennis, then he came to City Stadium. That's where I polished him.
Later on, he began training with various coaches at City Stadium Court, where he mastered the art of the game, and he was voted the most valuable player.
After I finished high school, I was not so good. I just decided to talk to one of the coaches from City Stadium because two of them used to come to our high school and they used to train us. So I decided to talk to two of them, and they trained me in 2015 and half of 2016, and that's when I started improving. So after that is when I started to perform locally in competitions. There was a league in 2016 and 2017. I was playing for City Stadium, and that's when I was voted as the most valuable player. And then I think after that is when I started playing even better because most of the coaches told me to train harder in order to maintain.
He went on to record other outstanding achievements both home and away.
There's a time that we went to Germany in 2014. I was in Form 4. That's when I saw that this game can be played seriously, and it was so difficult out there because most of the people there play it professionally, so they're so good in it. Yeah, and after that is when I knew that I could play this game more seriously. The most valuable player in 2017, the National League, that was the first one. And the national team debut was in Mauritius. We went to Mauritius in 2017 December for the ITTF Eastern Region Tournament, where we were runners-up in doubles, and I was sixth in singles. And then after that is 2018 March in the ITTF African Cup in Kasarani. And then after that, I went to Australia for Commonwealth Games in April 2018. It was difficult because also we had no coach, so we were just playing on our own. I lost in the group stages against a guy from Barbados and Pakistan, but it was a good experience because I learned a lot after that. And also in the mixed doubles, we played with a lady, and we were not able to win a game where we were leading against Sri Lanka, but we took it as a learning experience. And then in 2019, I was awarded a scholarship, Olympic Solidarity Scholarship, to train in Denmark. I trained for 1.5 months last year, June to August. And then after that, we went to the All African Games in Morocco in September. And then after that, this year, I played the African Cup. Before this African Cup, I won the ITTF Eastern Region Tournament in Kampala.
His most memorable moment was during the regional competition, where he emerged the best.
My best tournament was the one in the ITTF Regional Tournament in Uganda. Having in mind that there are very also good players from different countries around the Eastern region. So I think having won it, it gave me a lot of confidence, and I think that is my best tournament so far because I performed well and I won. So I think it was really nice to me.
The top seeds attributes all these to the value of hard work.
The most important thing is to stay humble first, and also keep on working hard, and also commit yourself in the game. Because sometimes if you let some of those stuff get over your head, get over maybe your focus, I think you're going not to, it won't take you far. So I think, but my focus now is to perform better in Africa, not only in Kenya. So I think in the tournaments that I played recently, I think they've taught me a lot of things, and I've also been exposed to how the game is played, not even Africa but also worldwide.
Brian was the top player during the Africa Cup hosted in Kenya, although he was not satisfied with the results.
At first I had a lot of pressure and I was nervous when I was playing my first matches, because playing in front of the home crowd and also playing against the African best players. But after a few matches I think I improved. But that time I think I was playing too defensive and I had a lot of errors, and I think I was not also matured mentally.
All in all, table tennis has helped Brian in improving his communication skills as well as expanding his connection in the world.
It has helped me quite a lot speaking in terms of interaction and also socializing, because I've been able to meet a lot of good friends all over the world, especially to the countries that I've been to. Starting with when I was in Denmark last year, we had an international training camp where we had more than 180 players who came from different countries in Europe. So we were able to meet, and I think I made a lot of good friends, and also it has helped me when it comes to, I think also the coaches that I meet there, they are able to support me in equipments and also in ideas and training. So they've helped me quite a lot.
It is also through the sport that he's able to sustain himself at Adekiwa, where he's pursuing his Bachelor of Physical Sciences.
Table tennis actually has helped me quite a lot, especially we are able to meet players from different countries when we travel maybe to outside Kenya, and it also helped me sustain myself while in the school.
He finds it difficult to balance his studies and the sport, but is managing all the same.
At the moment I'm not in school, but I'll be able to resume in September. So from now till September I'll be free. So I try to utilize this time during while in training. But when I go back to school, most of the time I have classes throughout the day. But I usually train in Jeko, I train from 6 p.m. Till maybe around 10 o'clock. Yeah, so because that's during the weekdays. But in weekends we try to train from I think 11 a.m. to maybe 5.
His coaches have helped him maintain that balance and is grateful for their support.
It's helped me during training. He usually tells me a lot of my mistakes and also pushes me to play past my limits, and also train physically, and also give me a lot of technical training and tactical training. So because that's what matters, and also game situation wise, he has been able to train me a lot, and I think he has helped me because if it was not for him, because after I went to Denmark, after I came back, not so many players were training then. So having him training me, because having him training me then, it helped me because my game would have dropped or go back to where I was before I went. So it helped me maintain my game level.
Brian, you can say, is the youngest. At 21, is the youngest of the players in the national team. He just came the other day through hard work. It was only hard work that propelled him to the top level in the country. That led him to be taken to Denmark last year for 45 days training before we went to All African Games in Morocco. And it was a good impact, as well as you can see the results, because he was the champion in the Eastern region, representing 14 countries in the top 16. You know, he had to come from the region, and this Eastern region comprises of 14 countries. So it shows a lot of hard work, and I think that is not the limit. We are yet to work extra hard, because by the end of the year, we would want to see him play in one of the top leagues in Europe.
He's top rank in this club, City Table Tennis Club, and he's still the top table tennis player in the country. So many guys, the junior, they look upon him, up to, because they can see what he's doing. He's doing great in whatever he's doing. He trains hard, He's a humble man.
Brian enjoys the support of his parents, both financially and emotionally.
I think that's where I actually get the biggest support from, especially my parents, because after I went to Germany in 2014, they were so happy, and after that is when they saw that this game can take me to areas where I don't think whether I could have been. So they supported me since then. And also sometimes you need also some transport money when you want to go from from school to training. So they help me get to where I want to go, and also in competitions also they help me maybe entry. Obviously I think they also want me to study, and also they put a lot of pressure to me to focus more on study and also to balance actually. So I actually try my best to balance. Most of the tournaments when you go abroad, we're able to get some local and international allowance, and I think that pushes me through. And I think it has helped me quite a lot, because if it was not for table tennis, I don't think I would have even gone out of Kenya, to be honest.
He hopes for more support from other well-wishers, especially with equipment, which is a major challenge.
Locally, maybe I think equipments, and also I think mostly it's equipments, because you can find that you can play using the same pair of rubbers for more than 5 months. While we went to the African Cup in Tunisia and the Olympic qualifiers, I talked to some of the players, and they told me that they usually train with the rubbers for only a week, and I was so surprised, because normally here we train for more than 5 months with the same rubbers. So that's the major challenge.
The table tennis player biggest dream is to qualify for the Olympics, which he hopes to achieve by the end of the qualifiers, after he found the going tough in Tunisia.
I had it in mind that I can qualify, but after the qualifiers, I did not manage. But I think I should be able to believe, and I know I can manage if there will be a next qualifiers, because from now on I'm going to perfect on my strength, and also work on my weaknesses a lot. I should train even harder in order to match the level of play over there. So I'll be able to, from now on, I'll be able to work on my mistakes, and also train physically, because I'm not physically fit comparing to most of the players out there.
There's a last qualifier for everyone in the world who did not manage to make it to the Olympic qualification, and that will be in a month's time in Doha, Qatar. That is one of the toughest qualifications, because most top players of the world who did not manage to get a slot in their zone are going to compete, and there are only 2 chances for both women and men, 2 men as well as 2 women. So it's going to be a hard nut to crack, but we've started training. We hope that we're going to get the support and go to Doha in a month's time, so that you can see if you can get a chance to qualify to Tokyo.
I'm ranked position 1 locally, and internationally I'm ranked 682. Actually, it's an improvement, because I was ranked in, I think, 1008. Yeah, because that was my first, after the African Cup in Tunisia, in Kasarani, is when I was ranked 1008. So after that, we played some tournaments, and then my rank was able to improve, and I'm now 682, I think.
Brian Mutua, who definitely is destined for greatness in the sport of table tennis, urges parents to allow their children to start training at an early age, while calling on his fellow players to stay focused and never let fame derail them.
Maybe it's to encourage the young ones out there who just play this game for fun. I think if they play it maybe more seriously, and also put enough time while training, and also commit themselves while training, it can help them a lot, because maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I was very different, and I was not even part of the top 10 players in Kenya. So everything is possible. So it's just to believe and also to commit yourself. You should also encourage the young ones to start at a very young age, because most of the players internationally are so good, but and when you come to hear of their age, you only hear that they're 17 or 18 years, and they're able to beat top-ranked players. So most of the players here in Kenya should start playing at a young age and also play it throughout, not at some point and then stop playing.